Yeah. You should be there. And others. That's right.
Probably. I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Take a month of August off just to kind of catch up a little.
Yeah, no, I don't think, you can't make that offer. No. You can have October. Maybe.
Ken, how are you?
I was gonna make a motion.
Life is good. How are you?
Control, like me.
How are you?
Wow. Nice to see you too.
I know. I know.
Ken, nice to see you. I'm good. How are you? How are you? I miss seeing you. How's that? Well, I get all the pretty young ladies, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to come out. He and I are doing for a while.
Yes, yeah.
Michelle, nice to see you down.
Okay, everybody, thank you. Thank you for accommodating our executive meeting. It is meeting number 556. It's Tuesday, July 28, 2026. Lake George, New York. Approval of the meeting minutes and fiscal actions report. Let's approve the meeting minutes for June 2026. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, motion made. Any remarks? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Approval of fiscal actions report June 2026.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made, motion second.
Second.
You had a question about it, or you got?
I did, and I do appreciate your getting back to me so quickly, but it would not have made a difference.
Okay.
But I tell them they don't need to,
We try to accommodate.
but I appreciate it, thank you.
Any other comments about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? As passed. Item 3, project review actions report, Vice Chairman Stanek.
Okay, resolution 2026-26, accept the project review action report. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review action report prepared by staff and dated July 21st, 2026. And whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review action report, now therefore be resolved that the commission directs that the project review action report be incorporated in the minutes of full commission meeting. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, that's carried. Director Tuen, would you like to talk about funding for a pole barn design, whatever that might be?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So as the commission's operations have grown through the years, our programs, rather, our operations have grown too. So we have more vehicles than we used to have. We have a fleet of trailer decontamination units. And so our maintenance needs have gone up, our storage needs have gone up, and we don't have a place to keep a lot of this material. So, vehicles and equipment are maintained outside. We're fortunate to have a good relationship with DEC, which operates the maintenance facility next door. And they allow us to store equipment at that facility next door. However, it's in an open-sided pole barn with a gravel dirt floor and not really conducive to maintenance and quality storage. So we're collaborating with DEC to replace one of their existing pole barns with a new structure that would be typical concrete foundation, prefabricated metal structure that would have 4 walls and allow staff and equipment to get out of the elements and to suit both the DEC and commission operational needs well into the future. To do this, obviously, it's gonna need, professional bid, similar to the commission office building. We envision a bid for the site work and the foundation, and a separate bid for the building. So to advance that process, obviously, we need some professional design. We're familiar with Studio A. They assisted with the design of our current office building and also helped design the new proposed and the fallen site, Battlefield Park. So DEC has some familiarity and comfort level with that firm as well. So we reached out to them to see if they could assist, and they provided a proposal to us to assist with the design and engineering for 2 bid packages and also for internal review for DEC and APA. That quote came in about $9,500. So basically to advance this project, which luckily will be funded by NYS funding. A couple years ago, through the Governor's Office and Division of Budget, was given $1 million for capital projects. So we've put in some docks, we've bought a new marine patrol vessel. So with the remaining funds, we hope to create this storage area for both agencies. So the resolution before you is to expend up to $10,000 for the design and engineering so we can progress this project.
Has somebody got the resolution to read?
I
You
don't know.
have it, Kath? Go ahead.
Okay. Resolution 2026-27 for approved funding for designing pole barn. Whereas commission programs and associated operations have expanded over the years to the benefit of Lake George. And whereas these programs require maintenance and storage of equipment and vehicles. And whereas the TBC, as a sister state agency, affords space at its Battlefield Park maintenance facility for storage of commission equipment, including use of an existing open-air pole barn. And whereas the commission and departments seek to cooperatively replace an existing pole barn and earthen floor with a prefabricated metal storage building on a concrete slab for shared use. And whereas the commission has secured the necessary funding from the New York Works program to offset the cost of the building design and construction. And whereas professional design plans are required to ensure proper structural engineering standards are met, as well as to bid the project for construction in accordance with New York State standards. Now therefore be it resolved that the commission hereby authorizes the expenditure of up to $10,000 for the professional design plans necessary to further this project, and further authorizes commission staff to execute any necessary agreements needed to secure this design. I make a motion to accept this resolution.
Motion made.
Second.
Any conversation, any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
I hear no nays, so it's passed. And at this point, I'm just gonna interject personal. When Dave Wick announced his retirement, I privately said to myself, oh crap, I wish I could quit this job a long time ago. Now I gotta find us a new executive director. Well, as we all know, he was sitting right in front of us, and he'd been watching and learning and training and this. And I'll tell you, this guy is doing his job as well as anybody. He knows his way around the state. What he doesn't know, he figures out and does it. He writes great letters. He's represented us well, and it's my job to stay here to make sure that the appointment process in Albany moves at slightly more than a deafening slow movement. Every time we turn around, we get a phone call. I'm calling you about such and such, and this is the first time we heard about this. So yeah. But anyway, Joe, I just want to comment publicly how good job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And why don't you take a week off and all with your family? Up in Maine, the same time I'm.
Only if you join me.
That's right.
I'll meet you at Jonathan's restaurant. Okay. Item 3, presentation of the Lake George Eurasian Water Moil Harvesting Program. And Joe, you want to give us an intro on that?
Yes, please. So we're lucky to have Wes and Ben Sheldon, cousins, right? Yes, sir. Cousins, and owners of New Water Marine. We have a new contract with Ben and Wes and New Water Marine. But interestingly, they've been the project managers overseeing milfoil harvesting on the lake since 2018. So new company, but not new to the lake. And they've done some incredible work. Milfoil, as you know, can be extremely detrimental to the lake, right? It impacts the local ecology, fisheries. It can have water quality impacts and certainly recreational impacts. And looking at the 2025 report, it's really cool to see the great progress that's been made around the lake. Off the top of my head, Northwest Bay, site number 1 that we started harvesting in 1986. Milfoil almost completely gone. Warner Bay, I've swam there in years past, and it was difficult to swim the bay because the milfoil was so dense into the surface. Milfoil there, almost completely gone. And a lot of great examples like that. So thought I'd invite these guys in, give them the opportunity to talk about what they do, which is so important to the lake, and talk about some of the successes that we're seeing out there.
Thanks, Joe.
You bet.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wes Sheldon. It's my cousin Ben. We've been obviously running, like you said, the Millville project since 2018. We've had a lot of great success, so kind of just got a little presentation for you. Bear with me, I don't do this very often, so.
Oh, this is strange. Got it on the computer, but you want to look at it.
Everybody tell jokes?
I'm used to this kind of thing in my house.
Want to do the project review, Joe?
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, just move on to the project and buy him some time.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin. Okay. Read what's on the page here. Item 6 is a seaplane application out of Bolton. Is that for you, Randy?
That is, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. This is my first seaplane application, so bear with me. Hopefully we didn't make any mistakes here. The applicant is Restful LLC. They're applying for a special recreational use permit to berth a 2021 Cessna 208 amphibious seaplane at 18 Sagamore Road in Bolton. They've also applied for a new mooring to berth that seaplane. They're estimating about 18 trips per year. Proposed takeoff and landing zone is about 2,500 feet offshore from the property, located south of Green Island and Dome, between Green Island and Dome Island. The activity is taking place in mostly Zone 8B and adjacent to Zone 7A, and they both have a surplus of boatable acreage according to the 2025 recreation study. Obviously, I mentioned the plane is amphibious, so if lake conditions or boat traffic conditions are not conducive to landing, the plane can land at a local airport instead. The plane also has to taxi through a 5 mile-an-hour zone to get to the mooring, which is great because everybody's going slow. So that'll be a little bit more safe for everyone. The plane's going to be moored to the mooring at about the center of the fuselage, so that's going to minimize any swing radius. We went to the site and took a look at it, which is good. The Property itself currently only has a single dock with a boathouse. Has 170 feet of lake frontage, which would allow for a second dock and also 2 moorings, so it can accommodate that. Scott Anderson and Tom Gay are both here to represent the applicant and filling in gaps that I've created or left out, and he can also answer any questions.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning.
As you mentioned, I do have Tom Gage, general manager of the hotel. I get asked every once in a while to help with some special projects. I work part-time for the hotel, so here I am. This will be very limited use. It's for the owners to come in, check on their properties. Don't plan on any real activity. Obviously, as you know, it's not commercial, it's all private use. And hopefully it's in an area, like you said, it's through a 5-mile-an-hour zone. They'll taxi out past the island before they land or take off. And I'll open that up to questions you may have for me. Because like you, it's my first seaplane application.
Is this actually part of the Sagamore?
Yes, the owners who own the Sagamore Hotel also own Rest Bowl, and they also own the airplane. So it's for them to come visit their site.
You know, I remember when I first came on the lake, a long, long time ago. Matthew Brady had his plane way up in Northwest Bay, and I was never really uncomfortable with that because A, it was in a corner, you don't really see it. And this, I was a little bit surprised. That's kind of a heavy traffic area there, can be. But I presume the responsible pilot takes all of it.
I'm certain they are. They don't want any accidents or want to hurt themselves as well. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment. This was a case where usually I'm pretty good looking at the pictures, but actually visiting the site, I was taken back as to how little of an impact I feel that plane will have there. I mean, the more, I said, wait a minute, it's going in adjacent to the boathouse. So it's way in that little cove in there where, and with the swing radius is gonna be, half of what it normally would be. It's fine as far as I'm concerned, and you're right about the 5-mile-an-hour zone. And it was nice to be in our pontoon and actually drive on the water part where the takeoff will be. And it was a case where going to visit the site really mitigated any concerns I had.
And thank you. It's also, it's a nice site that's tucked in behind the point. So in rough water, there shouldn't be a lot of rough water because of the point actually protects.
I'm gonna reflect on something slightly different. I'm not concerned about the berthing. I think that's not a bad spot. You and I talked about the anchor.
Yes.
That's gonna be embedded so that we don't have the possibility of drag or drift during heavy storms. But I'm a little concerned about the designated landing and takeoff area. You're much more familiar with that area than I am, but I've seen an awful lot of traffic through there, and I would just as soon see the takeoff area designated as a little farther north. Whether it be just to the east of Green Island or even up to the Northwest Bay. I think the traffic might be, I'm a little concerned about traffic coming out of Sawmill Bay, but I think the Huddle Bay traffic is significant.
Well, and we're
Whether we do
trying
it by
to,
minutes only or designated on the application, I realize you can change the landing pattern depending on what the boat traffic is,
right,
but I'm a little concerned about the designation.
well, the designate, I think if you really looked, and I did a small drawing, I'm not sure how accurate or how well it depicted it, but we're on the west side. If you look between Dome Island and say extending towards Crown Island,
We got it right up here.
and that's, for the most part, we're in the middle of the lake. We're trying to get away from all the traffic, and we want to be in a taxi mode when we come in to what I'll call more congested waters, which might be in front of the hotel and into the 5-mile-an-hour zone. So we're trying to get away from mainland as much as we can to minimize any impact with boats. And obviously, as we all know, the judgment of the pilot, if there's a whole bunch of traffic, he obviously has to shift his spot north or south, east or west somewhat, because he doesn't want any problems either. And I think we're all aware of that.
Once the plane lands or prior to taking off, it's nothing but a boat, right?
Right, and it's gonna do, it's gonna do its minimum speed to get into shore, to anchor, and go from the same taxiing out to where it's safe to take off.
And I'm nowhere near a flyer. You have to land according to the wind and take off according to the wind,
You do,
which could be different in any 20-minute period.
right, and again, I'll be very candid, the pilot's judgment there, obviously if there's 3-foot water, he's not taking off that day. Safety is paramount to them as well. So there's a little bit relying on the judgment of the pilot, but they have guidelines as well, so.
Yeah, one other thing that was in the application was over 15,000 flight hours. 50,000 hours.
Anything else?
How many years have you been at Sagamore, Ken?
26 years,
26 years.
and 5 years in the 80s.
5 years worth?
In the 80s, 5 years as well in the 80s.
Okay.
Was that as a chef?
It was.
By all public concern, you haven't screwed it up too badly. And you got a
Well
brother who
done.
runs a great restaurant in the area, so
Appreciate that.
congratulations, that's a good record, no doubt.
Appreciate that.
Anybody have anything else?
Just if I could real quickly,
Answer for you?
Scott,
Yes,
real quickly, so the pilot, they have a fleet of 4, there are 3 other planes, so this and 3 other planes, jet planes, they fly Europe, wherever. He's got over 15,000 hours. He's an experienced pilot that flies not only the seaplane, the jet, the twin prop. So they've got, he's well versed and he's a, obviously, skilled pilot.
Just one pilot would be flying this or multiple?
For this one pilot, yes,
Has it landed thus far
it has.
on the lake?
yes.
Where are you hiding at?
It's not- They were just in Warren County, at Floyd Bennett, 3 days ago, so.
Or can land, it's got wheels also?
Yeah.
So that's a benefit too with inclement weather,
Yeah.
heavy boating conditions, if
They
being
got bypass
amphibious,
the lake.
Yeah, got
you can go to an airport.
Can we just touch on aquatic invasive species for a moment? I tried to Google the lake that it's going to in New Hampshire and what currently that lake has for aquatic invasives. But any boat launching in Lake George, I know we dealt with this when we adopted our program, and any boat has to be inspected and so on, and it seems like kind of hard to get them to pull in and get an inspection.
A little bit.
So, and I know some of it, the outsides are air dry, and I'm well aware of that from the research and so on that we did then, but isn't there ballast in the pontoons that could, can we just talk about that a little bit? Because I had concerns at the time, and I know we ended up settling them somehow or another, but that was a number of years ago.
It's tough for me to answer some of that question about, certainly ballast water. I'm not experienced flyer, don't know much about it. I don't know how much water would be in them. They generally don't put ballast in those. That's a very light plane. Generally, they're empty, designed to be, except the wheels where they would go in and come out. But generally, all that water dumps out the minute they take off or land, or they take off, I should say. So I don't know if they're carrying water per se. To be candid, I don't know that. Certainly on the outside, I can't speak to that, and I don't know enough about Sunapee to give what their aquatic program is, or if they have an invasive program, I don't know what that is.
Based on previous applications, and one applicant comes to mind, Steve Kent up in Ticonderoga, who I think is somehow professionally involved with local seaplanes, was noting in his application that the pilot wants the plane dry without ballast, so they pump it out before flight, so there's no extra weight or weight shifting around, and obviously want to keep the plane clean and obviously it's going to air dry. So when we looked at this, we thought, given the self-interest of the pilot and wanting to keep the plane clean and dry, and also the flight time and overall pressure of how few seaplanes there are, it was something we decided did not pose a significant risk. But we could look at I didn't look at the invasive species in that way either.
I did, Lake Sunapee only has the two, curly pondweed and milfoil maybe. But we actually, I was mentioning to Scott and Tom earlier that the pilot may want to reach out to Sunapee because we have some other invasives that Lake Sunapee doesn't, such as like the spiny water flea, which might transfer maybe a little more easily than something else, like Cajun clam. In that regard, coming from Sunapee to Lake George, it wouldn't be an issue, but perhaps from Lake George to Sunapee.
And we would hope those same facts would be protected with Sunapee in that regard, I guess.
But it's not illegal to take off land a seaplane on Lake George at this moment, right? A random plane could land,
Correct.
As far as I know.
is that correct?
Yep.
So what we're really concerned about is the taxiway and the mooring. Now it's the arrival and departure.
Not directly, but consider safety.
Okay,
Yeah, when we went into the boat inspection program, initially, we talked about this, and I think that it was agreed upon that the flight itself, traveling at that speed, certainly would strip off quite a bit that was attached to it. And as everybody said, that draining floats certainly eases all our concerns.
that's good.
They are in this.
Is there anybody else here in the room that comment possibly, or neighbor or non-neighbor? Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thank you for
presentation.
your time and consideration, appreciate it very much.
Anybody have any other comments they want to make, questions?
As Kathy said, we went to visit the site, there were several of us, and I think we were all very pleased with being in the area where it's well protected.
Do we have a resolution?
Yes. Resolution 2026-28 approved seaplane application. Yes. And application number SP 26502. The applicant is Reciprocal LLC, whereas the applicant has applied for a special permit for recreational use to berth seaplane and made applications for related permit to add a mooring valve. And whereas Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And whereas the commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purpose of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment. And whereas the action is a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed consistent with regulations. And whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, the welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application with the following conditions. Commercial use of the seaplane to or from the waters of Lake George is prohibited as provided in section 248 of the general business law of the state of New York. Seaplanes shall be operated in such a manner so as not to cause unnecessary audible impacts to adjacent property owners. All facilities used for seaplanes, including in the dock or for mooring or other berthing facilities, shall conform with the provisions of 6 NY CRR parts 645 and 646. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, motion second, any further discussion?
One comment, not a condition, but
Okay,
the invasives issue is a very interesting issue brought up, and maybe we can ask the owners to monitor that, both at Lake Sunapee and Lake George, and then maybe we keep an eye on that with our invasives program in the future and see if we notice any impacts from this, because it's sort of a test case for us. We didn't really pursue it very hard in prior applications. Maybe we keep an eye on it.
We'll do that.
any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing no nays, we pass that resolution. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
How are we doing in the ready to go?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to movie land.
It always does.
Is there sound? A little video at the end.
I can.
Just
We all have the same idea, right?
All right, like I was saying before, I'm Wes Sheldon. I've been running the milfoil project here with my cousin Ben since 2018. Originally, we were under a different contractor, family business, AE Diving. We just recently started our own company, Water Marine, 2024. And here's just a little presentation, kind of how things are going. Dash on Lake George, who we are, what we do, and what the data shows. We're professional diving services specializing in diver-assisted aquatic plant removal. We're committed to environmental stewardship, minimizing impact on native plants and lake habitats. We are collaborative partners, working closely with local stakeholders to safeguard natural resources. And we still dive teams to ensure safe and precise, effective operations. Our history, we were founded, like I said, in 2024, but we've been doing this for about 20 years. We've worked all over New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, all over really. Prior to Lake George, we led a 5-year-long contract for DCR in Massachusetts, overseeing a large project, 38-acre basin where we removed 3 different types of invasives. By the end of that project, it was hard, you could hardly find a plant. The only thing that kind of kept it going was there was some invasives in the river that was pouring in, so we kind of had to just kind of keep a maintenance thing going there. In 2011 and 2012, we were hands-on with the Asian Clam project here at Lake George, both as research divers for the LGA and managing it for AE diving, implementing the benthic barriers. And then since 2018, we've been managing the Lake George milfoil project. Here's just some pictures. Wachusett Reservoir, Massachusetts. You can see a couple of years difference there. It was completely solid milfoil, and then water was completely clear shortly after. They kind of implemented the same idea what you guys are doing. We would go through an initial pass, and then we'd come back through the same season and try and do a secondary pass. And we kept up with that for a few years until the results show for themselves.
There's your company mascot there.
Yes, sir. That was Gnarls, the gnarly turtle. We caught him quite a few times. He'd like to hang out right over our job site a lot of the time.
Ben, was that you in the background?
What's that?
I don't know who that was.
I was like, oh, yeah, she got a haircut.
How gnarly was the turtle?
He was early. He was at first he was very skittish and he would like to hide while we were working, and eventually he got to know us pretty well. So when he see us coming, he kind of just let us pick him up and we'd take him away from the site for the day. He'd come back the next day. You'd run into them all over again. So, but we have a lot of divers who are kind of timid around turtles, so it was important for us to get them out of the way so they could be productive, not worry about running into them in the dark. So this is the Asian Clam project. Obviously that's Norwell Marine on the left there, putting in some benthic barriers around the docks, and then on the right, a bunch of material here in the village that was getting ready to get put in. It's the milfoil project, a couple pictures, just the harvester setup, a diver in the water. So we deploy trained dive teams to locate and remove invasive plants. We use a diver-assisted suction harvester, which is also known as DASH, to extract the plants and the roots. We support long-term management goals through repeat monitoring and removal, so we continuously check these sites and we make sure that any little bit of reef growth gets taken care of. And we collect operational data for the park commission so that they can, inform, and it helps inform future management decisions. All right, how DASH works and how it's used on Lake George. I don't know how familiar any of you guys are, but the suction harvester, the diver goes down, we remove invasive plants by the roots using a suction system, a long hose for flexible movement. Plants are discharged under the harvester where material is filtered out, separating water and sediment. And then the clean plant material is disposed of on shore where the park commission has trailers various places around the lake for us, and they dispose of it far from the lake to help prevent reintroduction. Here's just a couple more pictures of the operation so you guys get a better understanding. Roots there on the left, I'm plucking roots right out of the bottom. Trailers like that you don't see anymore here in Lake George. That was a couple of years ago. We fill a trailer like that sometimes twice in a day, and we just left the Southern Basin after 5 or 6 weeks covering all the sites, and we didn't even get a chance to fill that dumpster halfway. So Dash on Lake George is implemented in various ways, but our targeted management approach is focused on known invasive locations, large beds, so we remove as much biomass as possible so that we can eliminate the spread. We have multiple harvesters and we deploy them throughout the lake at the same time. That way we're covering multiple zones. We have a very short season, so we're trying to make sure as much of the lake is covered as possible. And then just repeat monitoring, following up, addressing these regrowth situations and new infestations over time. And it's all integrated in just a long-term management program that Park Commission has kind of created. And, along with other various efforts you guys have made, like the boat monitoring and all that type of stuff. All right, what the data shows. So this is a graph for historical lake-wide total since we started in 2018. On the left, you see, I think we were pulling somewhere around 80,000 pounds of milfoil each year, 2018, 2019. That's only 2 crews. So, and we only could really cover 10 sites at a time because of the amount of weeds that were in the lake. And in 2020, we added an additional crew, which you see that spike, and we added a significant amount of more sites that we were covering that year. And as you see the graph slowly start to go down from about 21 to 25, that graph is slowly going down, but at the same time, we're adding sites. So in the beginning, we were covering about 10 sites all year, throughout the year, and by 2025 last year, we're covering over 40 sites. And some of those sites we returned to this second time. Fickle Brook Delta in Sawmill Bay is another perfect example of how all this works. In 2018, we were tasked by Dave Wick. He said, prove what you guys are worth. We went in here and removed 10,000 pounds of material. It was a large infestation, 12-foot tall plants, maybe half an acre in size. And then obviously it drops off dramatically the next season. We went in there and we only pulled about 1,500 pounds. And then from that point forward, this year we pulled out half a dozen plants maybe. We just kind of comb the area, make sure there's nothing coming back, and it looks great. Native growth has come back in, taking it all over. And this is a picture of Fickle Brook when we first started, and that's gone. There's nothing there anymore. Northwest Bay, as Joe alluded to earlier, another successful site that we worked. Steep drop off. We large patch early on, 37,000 pounds removed from the entirety of Northwest Bay. And as you see little spikes there in the graph, 2021, that's just, anytime you see a spike in any of these graphs, it's just us adding sites and scope to the work. It's like, we'll add, there's various sites all the way down along the shore of Northwest Bay, and some years we just have more time to get to them. And you see a small spike that dramatically drops off right after. So that's what we noticed across the lake. Everywhere that we've added to the scope of work the following year, it's not there anymore. So, Gull Island, same idea. 2022 was our first year that we ever harvested at Gull Island. We removed 7,000 pounds. It was huge, large plants, 15-foot tall, very bushy, huge root balls, very well established. And then the following season, we returned there and we only pulled 490 pounds. And that's kind of leveled off. It's been about the same every year, and we think that's due to the nature of Gull Island. It's one large rock essentially. And there's deep crevasses where roots just get way down in there, and divers can't remove them. So we're thinking now that we have more time this year, we're going to take some tools out there and we're going to try and just spend a little more time digging in there, try and get the last remaining bits of roots. Here's a picture of Gull Island right before we started harvesting. You see up by the pointer there, there's a diver off in the distance, it's bubbles. And that's what it looked like before. Gull Bay, same kind of idea. We started there in 2020, lots of weeds, 15,000 pounds removed. Small decrease this following season, and then 2022 there's a slight increase. I don't know, there's a lot of native growth in there, so it depends on the situation. Sometimes you get a little bit of mixture of native growth in with the milfoil if it's a thick patch, but it drops off significantly right afterwards because at the same time we did this 23, it dropped off. The year before is when we did Gull Island, which kind of sits right outside of Gull Bay. And we believe that just through current and boat traffic, those plants just fragmented and drifted right into Gull Bay, continuing the problem year after year. So once we got rid of Gull Island, you see it just start to drop right off, and we're anticipating it's going to look really well and look good this year. Summary of what we found. So the data demonstrates that sustained targeted management significantly reduces milfoil over time, lowering overall treatment needs and long-term costs. Returning to these sites year over year, prevents milfoil from reestablishing, helping maintain long-term control and protecting those investments. Because if you do leave a bay, you know, we've noticed in some places, Harris Bay being a good example, if you leave it alone for a while, it will come back, and it comes back slowly, but then it hits a point where it'll just crescendo and become a large patch very quickly. Lake George Park Commission's detailed on-site inspections inform management decisions and reduce the need for us to go out and field survey, allowing us to just remain focused on efficient milfoil removal and not looking for the problem. Moving forward, we just need to continue managing these areas. Future efforts should focus on large infestations, if there are any left. I think that there's some in Sunset we're going to try and tackle this year, but at this point, it's getting harder to find large infestations. So we're just trying to tackle whatever there is out there and make sure that those plants don't have a chance to fragment and continue to create new patches. And the Park Commission's data team has been invaluable in that regard. They've been expanding the searches. We've actually knocked out a couple this year they just recently found. And that's going to be a huge help. I think as we're gaining more time every year because of the lack of weeds, and they can start to expand their searches, and that way we can find every little nook and cranny and get it all gone. Let's see. In the past, the sheer volume of milfoil limited harvesting is only a fraction of known sites. Like I said, 10 sites in the first couple of years, which isn't very much. And then we did, like I said, over 43 sites, I believe, last year, and some of those sites the second time. So we believe with Park Commission's strong management and our expertise, we're confident milfoil infestations will continue to decrease year after year. I believe at the end of this 4-year contract, 2030, it's going to be pretty difficult to find any large beds of milfoil anywhere in the lake. Just special thanks to everybody who helps us out, Park Commission, Lake George Association, DC, Norwalk, and all the sheriffs and Marine Patrol help keep us safe out there. And I have a video, I don't know if you guys are interested in watching it. It's a quick little 4-minute video.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I just hit play up here?
I'm not sure, honestly. If you just, if you hit advance, maybe it'll play. I'm not sure. I wonder if you have to exit the full screen to get it to.
Yeah, I don't think.
Can I ask a question while?
Yes, sir.
doing that? This sounds like great success. Can you talk about your perspective on Priscilla-core versus dash harvesting?
Okay, well, obviously, my perspective, I've been removing milfoil by hand since I was about 14. Then I got like 100,000 hours doing this underwater. I see Priscilla-core as a useful tool in certain situations. It does seem to be effective at killing milfoil, but the immediate return, like the season after, I typically see milfoil starting to grow back in those areas. It's not as thick. Obviously, the large patches, they get knocked out completely, but the roots are still kind of intact. So the following seasons, you'll start to see little plants growing everywhere there was that patch. And then shortly after, if you left that alone, you'd be back to where you were within probably 3 or 4 years, I would imagine. And I've had lakes
The roots
back.
are still intact and still viable?
Yes, sir. I mean, it does a great job. I will give it that. It will kill the milfoil, large beds, it'll be gone, but it will slowly start to come back. And we've had multiple lakes around where we've worked growing up that have done this year after year after year, because they're just kind of, they're behind the 8 ball and they think that they're going to just Priscilla-core or whatever. There's been various chemicals throughout the years that have come out. But what happens too is if you're using it lake-wide, but the treatment you guys did was not that, it works because it was a small area. You're trying to knock out a significant patch and you weren't trying to do lake-wide. A lot of lakes back home, we notice in Vermont, they'll do lake-wide treatments. And then you kill all that biomass, and all that biomass dissolves into the water column. And you end up with algae blooms, you end up with poor visibility. The lake kind of just goes to junk. Like we grew up diving lakes that look like Lake George, and now they're like mud puddles. So it's like kind of a tool that you need to use in the right application. We're not totally against it. I prefer not to. Our beef is that a lot of times lakes will use a chemical, and then they'll have us come in afterwards and clean up the mess. And I don't want to be down in there.
Too many associations think it's a panacea, is that what you're
Yes.
thinking?
Yes. They look at it like it's a cure-all, and it really isn't. Okay, no worries.
Isn't it possible an application for that one bay you were talking about that's very rocky? And when they start growing up, it has a better chance to kill it versus pulling it out?
Honestly, at first, it's kind of what we've always thought, but we've noticed that all the rocky shoals that we've attacked, the following season, it's like 10% of the patches left. And then we just knock out that last 10%, and you won't find anything there for years. So it's just really, I don't know, I guess it just depends on your goals really, I mean, harvesting is extremely effective, and we do try to take our time and get all the roots that we possibly can. There's a lot of companies out there who kind of just blast through and they look at it like mowing the lawn, but we don't want to be mowing the lawn. We want Lake George to be clean. We want anywhere where we've been saying for 20 years that this works, but nobody has given us the time to actually see it through. And obviously Lake George is huge. It's one of the biggest lakes you could do this on, and we've managed to make it happen here. So we know that we've seen small lakes get to the very bitter end, and they go, oh, we're sick of wasting money on you guys. And they kick us to this curb, and the next thing you know, they're right back where they started. So I do believe we're extremely effective. I think Priscilla can be extremely effective. It's just not something I prefer to use if there's other options.
How do you prevent yourself from working out of a job?
That's what we've been talking about this whole year so far. We're like, man, we got 4 more years. What are we going to be doing? So we're hoping that by the end of this year, maybe the end of next year, we're gonna have it to a point where we're gonna need to start scouring the shorelines. We're gonna need to spend time just literally dropping in and swimming the entire shoreline of a bay, making sure there isn't anything else. Because it's getting to that point now, we're going up site after site, and it's just like we're in and out of the day. Where it used to take us 2 weeks, and we're filling trailers. Like Dustin can testify to that. Like we called him in the middle of the day, you dug this trailer, we got more weeds, and he's just like, oh, okay, I'll try to find somebody. But nowadays, like I said, we did the entirety of the southern basin, and we barely filled the trail, which is ridiculous. Like we never expected it to come to that this quickly. So
You guys hit Harris Bay last year, so we went out this earlier this summer, and we're like, all right, let's go look and see what's there, how it is. We couldn't find it, and you guys showed up the next day or two, and we're like, yeah, there wasn't much here.
yeah, but we were anticipating quite a bit more
You guys
too.
did an awesome job. So.
I wanted to talk about Harris Bay, because I know, I saw your boat, I think your boat in there, working. And I was under the impression that we hadn't done Harris Bay. We did it last year.
Yeah, there's a large break, I think 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, we stopped doing it for a little while.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's very encouraging, because Harris Bay was a mess.
Oh, it was a mess. When we first started there, we joked around. We had one diver who works for us who's a bit of a wrecking ball. We just sent him to all the heavy weeds. He loves it. And we joked that he had the Great Wall of China down there because it was literally like hundreds and hundreds of feet. He had this perfectly straight wall, 12-foot tall plants. And it just encompassed the entire area of Harris Bay. And now you go in there and you can't find anything. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Say what we did for you?
That's wonderful. And I have noticed that now that we're talking about it, I've noticed on the beach and so on, I used to see tons of fragments washing in and so on, because I was partly responsible for cleaning that crap out on the mornings, and it's not there.
No, we're super
That's
excited.
awesome.
Now it's just kind of little pieces here and there.
You're from Vermont?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's good. You two are in Rollins.
Oh, right on. I actually live in Harvard.
That gives you some points.
Oh, right.
And there are plenty of lakes around.
Work on Lake Robinson.
So they're kind of, again, it's one of those situations where everybody scoffs at the price, and they're getting those chemical debates. And honestly, if they did that at Bombazine, it would ruin Bombazine. They did come true because there's just so much weeds. Like I was saying, but like in Paris Bay, for instance, when they had all those weeds and we went in there and nuked it, that shit would just dissolve everywhere. You would have algae clouds the size of this room, and eventually, if you kept doing that year after year, you'd end up with a very dark, nasty looking bay. It kind of resembles more like Water Bay or something like that. And so we just
Between, there's a strange culture over there.
100%, that's very true.
Happy saying that?
Ultra refined Vermont.
Well, like I said, like you guys provided funding to actually make this happen, so it can be done. It's just a lot of wild lakes. They don't have that long-term view. They'll put in a good amount of funding for a couple of years, and we'll get a big chunk of it taken out. But they won't see the project through. So if you clear out a huge section, but you leave a large, dense bed right over there, it's just going to keep fragmenting, and eventually just take it right back.
How were the blooms in our Priscilla Core sites?
There's nothing there now. Oh, you mean algae blooms and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it was kind of a concentrated area. It's not, you weren't doing it lake-wide, and Lake George is so big and vast, and it drops off so quickly there. I don't think you get that same kind of reaction in a place like that. Like it's a good instance to use Priscilla Core. But if you were to do that shallow bay where there was tons of weeds like that, you'd probably more likely see a lot of algae.
Wes, do you have any concerns about resuspending nutrients when you're pulling up the
Not so
roots and all?
much. We're one of the only companies, I don't know why other people don't do it, but we have a silt tunnel underneath our boats. We install once we get to the site, and it's 16 foot long and it drops right down to the bottom. So the sediment that's coming off the table in the
Right to
plant,
the bottom.
it gets deposited right back down there. And that helps our divers keep their visibility as well.
Yeah.
A lot of companies will just run that mud all over their boat, right into the water, and before you know it, you're in the dark.
Yeah.
So we like to keep things clean, we like to keep things, so our divers can be more.
I remember being in a conversation that was criticizing the fact that the weeds were being transported to a farmer's field and used as
Compost?
compost, untreated. And is there any widespread effect from that?
I've heard it's awesome fertilizer.
Yeah, it's good.
I think it's kind of like
Yeah,
it's the next push. I feel like more lakes should be using it, and as such, you know,
Mhm.
instead we're just on composting it somewhere in the dump or something like that. But I feel like, you know, with the fertilizer concerns moving into the future, I feel like we should be looking to our lakes and the invasives to help produce fertilizer and things like that.
But Joe, didn't you explain that that was not in the basin, that use of the composting material?
Related to Priscilla Core, yeah, so our harvest, in Glen Burnie, post Priscilla Core use was, you know, obviously months after the actual application, and didn't take any of the dead material that was actually impacted by Priscilla Core. So the only thing that was left was standing and healthy, and milfoil has a low tolerance for Priscilla Core, so even a small concentration for a half an hour kills the plant. And so what was harvested there were healthy plants not impacted that didn't have Priscilla Core. So ultimately, you know, there's no concern there. But, you know, had you treated the plants and then gathered the dead plants that had absorbed the Priscilla Core, there's an issue with that, with, you know, potential inadvertent use of the chemical off script, off label.
When you, do your diving to harvest the milfoil, have you seen a more of a, increase of algae? Is it more prolific around the milfoil?
No. There's certain areas that you'll notice it, that's because of other things, like Gull Island, there's a lot of algae that used to be clinging to the plants. That's probably just from the runoff of all the bird feces and things on the island, so it's typically some other outside source if you see out there like that.
Can you work on the cormorants for us?
Cormorants.
Oh, boy, they're bad.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you, good job.
No, you're not gonna, you're not. Nobody's saying, well, nobody's. But this is good, that's good. It's good for all.
I'm sure we're doing it perfectly, we'll tell you what we do, and then you can tell everybody else after.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tough subject made interesting. That's why I wish we had a crowd. We used to have crowds here before we angered everybody and they stopped coming to our meetings. Which reminds me, the head that the Lake George Battlefield Commission unveiled last week was bought and paid for by, oh my God, her name just walked out.
Rosemary.
Rosemary. She and her husband. And then stop by downstairs from the building and take a look at it. It is absolutely unreal. Thank you. I think I know. Law Enforcement Committee report, do we have one of those?
We do. The law enforcement committee met at 9:30 this morning. And Lieutenant Joe Johns filled us in on a lot of good stuff. First of all, our new boat should be, bye gentlemen.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your hard work.
Should be ready to be shipped, should be ready to ship soon, and that's all good. And the Marine Patrol is, regarding the Marine Patrol, there was a little filmmaking done by Netflix, and we billed them for some money, for about $5,000. And then we had our last voter education course in Bolton on July 6th and 9th that took 9 students passed. And then Joe filled us in on a very, very busy July with a lot of incidents. Way too numerous to mention here, but I just rest assured the Marine Patrol is out there keeping a lot of good order on the lake. And then we went into executive session and came out, and the meeting was adjourned. Is there any additions or deletions on that you'd like to fill me in? Okay, okay, then I will Oh, I had, wait a minute, I did print out the resolution, and it's right here. Resolution 2026, meeting number 556. Whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met on July 8th, 2026 to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session. And whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting at this full commission meeting. And whereas the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now therefore be it resolved that the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee. I so move.
Second.
And, go ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hearing no nays, carried.
No nays, so motion carried.
I'm obligated to ask if there's any public comments. Hearing none. I'll move on to the other important, looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
That's right. Carried, we're done.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm presumptuous on some of those things. Now, I hope we're all going to lunch today.
I hope so.
No, if you're not, well, want some help, please?
No,
How many drinks would you have had if you were going?